Well, good afternoon. As Dr. Snyder said, I am Lucretia Martin. The title of my dissertation is The Impact of Restorative Justice Practices on African American Males' Academic Achievement and Discipline in a Mid-Atlantic School District. Why I got into the studies, as Dr. Snyder said, I'm a teacher, so I engage in discipline on a regular basis. I also have three nephews, all under the age of 8 currently, and I want to make sure that they have a good time when they're in school, that their voices are heard, and that if they ever do get in trouble, because I know they get in trouble now, that their voices are taken into consideration when they do get into trouble in school, which will happen. So some background. Prior research has shown that African American males are disproportionately disciplined at a higher rate than other subgroups of students. Research has found that African American students have disciplined more for the same infractions as white students, even starting as young as pre-kindergarten. But there's been no research to really explain why that is. And there's little research around RJP and student academics, and this research fills that gap. So how did we get here? In the 1950s, schools had stricter discipline due to crime among youth. And then from the 1970s to 1980s, discipline methods changed to end school suspension. And then in the 1990s, we went to the zero tolerance policy where students were getting in trouble for running in the halls, for skipping school, for smoking, but the discipline was much stricter for any type of discipline that happened, or any type of, discipline infractions that happened in students. So restorative justice practices were originally associated with the criminal justice system, but now schools have adopted it to fit the needs of students. It allows students to be held accountable for their actions while learning what the harm has been done, who's been harmed, as well as it teaches students to engage in dialogue around situations that occurred. So the 6 components that you see on the screen are some of the major components, although in readings you might find there's more. The research district used 4 major ones, but you may have seen another one in secondary. Ed, so restorative circles, community building, effective statements, affective questions, and impromptu conversations were seen a lot throughout the research district. And mediation might have been seen in secondary ed. However, family counseling was not used. So the purpose of the study was to understand the impact of RJP on student achievement and the teacher perceptions of RJP in the classroom. And then here's research question 1. And then research questions 2 through 4. My methodology, my research was a quantitative descriptive survey study. I used publicly released data that was analyzed from the Maryland report card using the Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program, which is known as MCAP, for grades 3 through 8, which focused on math and ELA, grade 10, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and geometry. Unfortunately, suspension and expulsion data was not available due to a data breach in the district. I created a survey that was given to the treatment schools, and then I also used the district created survey. So there were 20 treatment schools that were included in the study. 6 were elementary, 8 were middle, and 6 were high schools. Each treatment school was matched to a comparison school, and they were matched based on attendance data, enrollment data, the percentage of farms, the percentage of ELL, and the percentage of special ed students. So all of the elementary, middle, and high schools were matched to based on demographics. The survey I created had 5 open-ended questions that focused on the teacher perceptions of RJP in the classroom. And there are 2 examples of the questions that I asked on the screen. But these, the survey I created was sent just to the 20 treatment schools because they were currently implementing RJP in the classroom. And from the surveys I sent, I got 62 participants. There were 6 elementary, 29 middle, and then 27 high school respondents. The district created a survey that was given to employees that participated in RJP professional development. So the participants could have been anywhere from executive directors to administrators to resource teachers, special educators, para-educators. So I narrowed their 395 participants down to 207 participants. And those participants were people that have daily contact with students. So it was like classroom teachers, resource staff, special area, and kind of left out administrators, the executive directors, the ones that don't see the students every day. Majority of their survey was based on a Likert scale, and then they had, I believe, 3 or 4 open-ended questions. There's some findings. For research question 1, I analyzed it using tables first and then created graphs so that you could see the difference between the treatment schools and the comparison schools. But the assessment scores for treatment schools were higher overall than non-treatment schools. Scores for African-American males varied for ELA and math. There were some treatment schools where African-American males scored higher, and then there were others where they scored lower. So it was very varied. It was very varied, sorry. And then the results were mixed for graduation rates as well as dropout rates. I noticed, for example, scores for African American males in like 2019 for grade 3 ELA, there were African American males that scored higher in their treatment schools versus the non-treatment schools, and same with the 2022 MCAP scores. So it was very varied across the grade levels. I used a frequency table to take a look at the 207 respondents and the Likert scale that the county or the district used in their survey, and noticed that impromptu conversations were used daily. And I think that came up the most because most of the respondents came from high school, and it's easier for students in high school to drop and have a conversation with teachers in the hallway or drop into a classroom versus elementary school teachers that are kind of isolated all day with their students, or just see other students passing in the hallway. But you can see that impromptu conversations were used daily 45% of the time, affective statements used 42% of the time. Research question 3, I did the chi-squared test of independence, and surprisingly, it was statistically significant relationship between affective statements and decrease in class referral, affective statements and a decrease in time spent on addressing challenging behavior, affective statements in helping to build community within the classroom. So each of the components on the left was statistically significant when you compared it to the variable on the right. So the teachers that use these components weekly or daily saw a decrease in the class referrals, and they saw a decrease in time spent on addressing challenging behavior, and they saw an increase in helping to build the community within the classroom. That was great to see. For all research question 4, I coded keywords and all of the open-ended questions to find the positive and mutual impact between the challenges, barriers, and benefits that teachers saw in using RJP. Some positives that teachers saw were to build trust among the teachers and the students. They were showing more respect among their peers and the teachers. There's reduced in conflicts, suspensions, and referrals. However, there were some teachers that said that the practice was not used correctly. And then some said that they didn't see any change in student behavior. Some teachers also said that they saw students spending more time in class, which is a positive because, you know, when a student is disciplined, they were spending more time in class, so their academics were impacted. Students that did have to leave the class for behavior were re-engaging in activities when they came back into the classroom. They were participating more, and there was a reduction in the loss of instructional time. And then there's others that said there was no change at all. And then some educators felt that students felt uncomfortable sharing, which for some students, if they're not used to voicing their opinion or being able to voice their opinion, then they wouldn't be comfortable sharing in school as well. With the district survey, there were some challenges and barriers such as time. Teachers felt that they didn't have the time due to trying to stay on pacing with the curriculum. Not enough space to hold circles, trying to put chairs in the, you know, the big circle to have a community restorative circle. Not enough training and a lack of teacher buy-in. However, there's some benefits of the student behavior to decrease in negative student behavior and a better increase in communication among students to students and student to teacher, and a lot of relationship building were positives that we're seeing. I used critical race theory as my theoretical framework. And I found a quote from Gloria Lansing-Billings in an interview she did with the Harvard Graduate School of Education that really defined critical race theory, probably the best I've ever read. And she said critical race theory is a theoretical tool that began in legal studies and law schools in an attempt to explain racial inequity. It serves the same function in education. How do you explain the inequity of achievement, the racial inequity of achievement in our schools? So all the things that we are a part of, the equality of opportunity explanation, have rolled away. Critical race theory's explanation for racial inequality is that it's baked into the way we have organized the society. Is aberrant. It's not one of those things that we all clutch our pearls and say, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. It happens on a regular basis all the time. So that's really one of the tenets that people are uncomfortable hearing. That's not abnormal behavior in our society for people to react in racist ways. So after doing some research in critical race and seeing that the 5 tenets from Lansing-Billings and Tate, and doing some more work, I fell upon Delgado and Stefanik's 5 themes and found counter narratives and storytelling. And I felt that fit the best because it allows African Americans to tell their viewpoint and tell their story. And I felt that fit best with RJP, because no matter what component of RJP you're using, your the student's able to tell their story. In a restorative circle, they're able to explain their viewpoint or their side of an argument. If you're asking them an affective question, they're sharing their viewpoint. If you're saying an affective statement, you know, with students, no matter what, they're going to share their opinion. And you're building the community because they're sharing their voice. So I felt like counter narratives fits with RJP perfectly and allowed students to have a voice in the classroom. Recommendations for future research, to consider what other behavioral programs are being implemented besides RJP or in connection with RJP, and to investigate a feeder pattern. So for example, if an elementary school is using RJP, what middle school is using the same program that those schools feed into a high school that's using it? And do you see a connection between academics and student behavior, say from a group of students that starts in kindergarten and ends in 12th grade? To really see, is there an impact in RJP from when they start to end their educational career? I really think that would be an interesting research investigation. Some implications, sorry. It provided a lot of insight into the current implementation of RJP into this district, and it allowed teachers to share the perceptions of RJP with the challenges, barriers, positives, and negatives that they see, because they're the ones implementing it right now. So students and teachers who engage in RJP can see positive and negatives in behavior. They can build trust among one another while also learning conflict resolution strategies. Teachers learn other behavior techniques besides suspending and expelling a student, and both parties involved learn to listen to one another. However, there were some limitations. Not having that discipline data because of the data breach was a little bit disappointing. And it's impossible to know whether teachers were implementing the program with fidelity and what other discipline programs were being used in the schools. So, any questions?